Adventure Time is coming to an end very soon. It's a show that helped define this decade of cartoons. I want to take a look at its influence, impact, and how important it was for Cartoon Network. We'll go over its origin, rise in popularity, and how recently that popularity has faded. I recently got back into the show, and while before I was a bit confused about where the show was going with its writing, I'm very glad that I caught up, because it's been really good in its final seasons. I knew Adventure Time was going to be a great cartoon when I saw the pilot before it aired back in 2010, but I never could have guessed that it would become such a big influence for cartoons in this decade. So let's first dive into Adventure Time's beginning.
Yeah, boy!
Adventure Time was created by Pendleton Ward. He had previously worked on The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, along with other creators that would soon make their own cartoons like J.G. Quintel. But before that, he created a short for Adventure Time in 2006. It aired as a short on the Nicktoons network. Then it was uploaded online in 2007, where it was a hit with the internet, getting tons of views. And then later, it would be part of Nicktoons' Random Cartoons. Nickelodeon was pitched the idea for Adventure Time for the Nicktoons network, but it was turned down. Twice. Apparently, from what I can find, the reasoning is that it was too weird.
Your mind has been transported back in time, and to Mars.
What?
Thankfully, Cartoon Network picked it up. But it wasn't that simple. Cartoon Network wanted Pendleton to prove that his pilot wasn't a one-hit wonder, as just some viral video that got a lot of views on the internet. They wanted a script for an episode. But Frederator, the company helping Ward get Adventure Time off the ground, convinced him to make a storyboard to give a better idea of what the show was about. He worked with his friends Patrick McHale and Adam Muto on creating a rough storyboard that was about Finn and Princess Bubblegum on a spaghetti supper date.
Here, shove this in your mouth. It's hot.
Finn, I don't understand.
Please, princess, just stick it in your mouth.
Well, okay. You're lucky I love spaghetti.
Cartoon Network didn't like it, but they were given another chance. So instead, Ward and his pals started working on a storyboard for the episode titled The Enchiridion. They wanted to give it the same feel as the pilot, and they nailed it. Cartoon Network approved the series to start production in September of 2008. Thurip Van Orman, the creator of Flapjack, would help Pendleton guide him and his staff for the first 2 seasons. Cartoon Network got to work on advertising for Adventure Time.
What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? What?
They premiered the 2 episodes Business Time and Evicted as previews in March of 2010. Then, on April 5th, 2010, the show officially started its season with Slumber Party Panic. Pendleton Ward's creation had finally made it onto television. But Ward and his staff had no idea how big of an impact Adventure Time was about to make. One thing that was bothering me at the time that Adventure Time was entering production was the state of Cartoon Network. The Cartoon Network originals were few and far between in 2008. Yeah, there was Chowder and there was Flapjack, but other than those, there was a lot of acquired content like Johnny Test, Total Drama Island, and 16. And to make matters worse, Cartoon Network had started making live-action shows in 2009. However, during this phase, I was looking into shows that would be coming to Cartoon Network that might help it get back on track. I looked online for information and I came across 3 pilots. They were for Regular Show, Uncle Grandpa, and Adventure Time, all of which would become shows on Cartoon Network. But I was most excited for Adventure Time. There was just something about it where I thought it had a lot of potential with its sort of sandbox setting it took place in. But I never expected it to blow up in popularity. During the first season, Adventure Time became a rating success, with episodes regularly reaching near or over 2 million live viewers. It was just the show that Cartoon Network needed. Adventure Time, paired with Regular Show, helped the network out of the funk it had experimenting with live action, and it reverted back to being the cartoon network that it is. During Adventure Time's first few years, the popularity of it grew immensely, with episodes like Fiona and Cake and Burning Low reaching over 3 million viewers. It helped that the production of Adventure Time was going along smoothly. The first 4 seasons aired from April 2010 to October 2012. That allowed Cartoon Network to air a brand new episode almost every week, and the network would continue doing so for years. Adventure Time was not only a rating success, but it was very successful when it came to merchandise. There were books, shirts, comics, toys, and video games.
Who wants to play video games?
It also became the first Cartoon Network show to actually get a Blu-ray release as far as I know. It was also a hit internationally. In Taiwan, they had a train with the face of Jake on it. In Dubai, there's a theme park ride. And in China, they created a rip-off cartoon called The Legend of Lucky Pie. So yeah, Adventure Time was incredibly popular. But what made it such a hit? Adventure Time was a comedic cartoon, and it appealed to a lot of people's seemingly random sense of humor. My friend Tyler and I would quote the show on a regular basis with whatever line we thought was funny.
Archie's feeling healthy again. A bit too healthy if you ask me.
But any cartoon can be funny. Adventure Time started something that a lot of other cartoons would start doing, and that was implementing bits of story arcs and lore into the show. This is where I think a lot of people started getting into the show, and the popularity started to blow up. The episodic nature of the show means you can come back to any episode and enjoy it, even the ones that have connections with an overarching story. It was hinted at in the first couple of seasons that Adventure Time took place in a post-apocalyptic setting. The show staff didn't want to make it too obvious at first, but in future episodes it would delve more deeply into the show's lore. The backstory of Ice King's origin and his interaction with Marceline was something that a lot of people gravitated towards and actually got a lot of people into the show. At first, it's something that I thought was a bit unnecessary, but as I continued watching, I was getting a lot more into it, and not a lot of shows at the time were doing anything like it. Adventure Time also started delving into a lot more mature themes like love, loss, friendship, abandonment, mortality, immortality, music, art, guilt, obsession, magic, science, innocence, evil, existentialism, surveillance, conspiracy, life, death.
How long are you gonna list stuff?
It's a long list.
I mentioned before that I like the sandbox setting of the show, where it feels like anything could happen in the land of Ooo. That's something that I really appreciate in a cartoon, when I can see the potential of its setting. I think part of that has to deal with the Dungeons & Dragons influence that Adventure Time has. Even the title card of the show reflects that influence. The staff of the show mentioned that a lot of the stories they write are what they would want to play D&D with. Like, the entirety of Adventure Time is just this super long D&D campaign that keeps changing and evolving as the show goes on. It started out as this silly romp through a magical world, and then starts to explore the deeper themes and lore of the characters. Finn has even grown up in the show. He started from being 12 years old to being 17 in the final season, going through relationships and many hard experiences from childhood to adulthood, but keeping the spirit of a young hero.
Youth culture forever!
It seems like people can really connect to Finn and a lot of other characters in the show. Or maybe they just like Adventure Time because it's fun. To me, it feels timeless. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it feels like it's been around forever, even though it premiered when I was in college. It's a cartoon that I can watch again and again. Adventure Time wasn't just a popular cartoon though. It created a ripple effect when it entered production. A lot of the people that worked on Adventure Time would go on to create their own cartoons. Patrick McHale, a creative director on the show and Pendleton's college friend, would make Over the Garden Wall. Rebecca Sugar, a story writer and songwriter for Adventure Time, would go on to create Steven Universe. And many others like Ian Jones-Cordy and Julia Pott would also make cartoons of their own. Not only did Adventure Time have a direct impact on creators, but it also indirectly influenced other cartoonists to start experimenting with styles, stories, and settings. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to you. A lot of people point the finger at Adventure Time for starting what people call the Cal Arts style, and think it's to blame for the homogenized look of some modern cartoons. But I'd rather look at the positives. Adventure Time, along with its peers at the time, started a cartoon renaissance. It began with Adventure Time and Regular Show, but then shows like Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, and Star vs. the Forces of Evil would continue the trend of story-driven comedic cartoons. Adventure Time's popularity couldn't last though. Around the time of the 6th season, people started losing interest in the show, myself included. For a lot of viewers, the episode titled Breezy rubbed them the wrong way. Audiences felt the show was going around in circles with its story and wasn't going anywhere. And some felt that it might have been trying too hard to be quote-unquote deep. For me personally, I was still watching, but I was getting tired of some of the more random episodes. The episode that made me stop watching was called Chips and Ice Cream. And a lot of other cartoons were starting to pick up in their seasons with what people considered better stories. But that's very subjective. It didn't help that Cartoon Network was also losing interest in the show. Even though Season 6 premiered with one of the highest rated episodes, viewership was starting to decline. And for Season 7, the airing of episodes started to change. Rather than having an episode almost every week like the previous 6 seasons, there would be bombs of episodes, where a new episode or 2 would premiere every weekday of a certain week. This was started with Steven Universe, and Cartoon Network would continue to do it with other shows. Along with the first few episodes of Season 7, the miniseries Stakes was also premiered using this bomb technique. It was successful for Stakes, almost reaching 2 million live viewers. However, Adventure Time would never get close to those numbers again, unless the finale breaks that. With each consecutive bomb of episodes, the numbers kept dropping lower, with the latest one only reaching 0.53 million viewers. Cartoon Network is partly at fault for not advertising the later seasons, but it's also because a lot of viewers are no longer watching TV as it airs, and would rather binge watch a season of a show on something like Hulu or Netflix. Perhaps the bombs of cartoons was a way to counter that. Still, Cartoon Network seems to have lost interest in the series as it's ending. Hold on, pause for a moment. So a quick addendum to this while I'm editing. Cartoon Network has actually been advertising the finale quite a bit, and they're actually doing an all-day marathon before the finale, so it does seem like they do care about the show ending. But still, this next point about the physical media like Blu-rays and DVDs still stand. Okay, unpause. The first 6 seasons were released on Blu-rays and DVD, but then Season 7 was released on just DVD, and the final seasons are all put into one compilation DVD set. Its popularity has dwindled, but there are still dedicated fans, myself included. I got back into the show last year, and I feel bad for neglecting it all this time. I love Adventure Time, and I'm going to miss it once the final season is over. It's become one of my favorite cartoons of all time. I knew it had potential when I saw the pilot, and I've seen it grow into a massive success. From helping save Cartoon Network to becoming a cultural phenomenon, it's been a weird rollercoaster ride of a cartoon. It appealed to both kids and adults. It wasn't a part of my childhood, but I can understand how so many kids could get into the show. I can only imagine growing up with it, and having Finn grow up with you. Adventure Time was the flagship show for Cartoon Network this decade, and it helped define what animation on television would become. It was lightning in a bottle, and I'm not sure if anything like it can be created again. Pendleton Ward and his crew created something really special with Adventure Time, and it will be remembered for years to come.
Adventure time, come on, grab your friends. We're going to a very distant land. But Jake the dog and Finn the human, the fun will never end. It's adventure time. Can you guys join me?
Okay.
Let's everyone join.
Adventure time, come on, grab your friends. We're going to a very distant land. But Jake the dog and Finn the human, the fun will never end. It's adventure time. Can you hear us?
One more time with everybody. Everybody. Yeah, we got it.
1, 2, 3.
Adventure time. Come on, grab your friends. We're going to a very distant land. With Jake the dog and Finn the human, the fun will never end. It's adventure time.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for watching this video. This is one that I've been wanting to make for a long time. I'd also like to thank Saberspark for always having my back and helping me out, as well as all of my patrons for supporting me. Your support means a lot to me. And I'd also like to thank Crown Cryptid. He did a video about the downfall of the popularity of Adventure Time, and he had some really great information in it. I'll leave a link to it in the description and the comments. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!